So as Jonah said, this talk is about dating with cancer. You have probably gleaned this already, but just to cover why I care about dating with cancer, I'm a dating coach. I really like dating a lot. It's one of my favorite activities, and those two things are correlated. And then on May 25th of last year, I was diagnosed with papillary thyroid carcinoma, or thyroid cancer. So it became a really personal topic for me. Suddenly, I was dating with cancer. So that's why I care about this. But maybe the more important question is, why should you care about dating with cancer? And there's a few reasons. One, just looking sort of at the statistics, every year 1.6 million people in the US are diagnosed with cancer. That's a pretty big number. Now, most of those people are older than those of us that are in the room, but if we look at young adults, which are people aged 15 to 39, 72,000 young adults are diagnosed with cancer every year. So I was one of those last year. So if you live long enough, at some point, there's a good likelihood cancer and your dating relationship lives will intersect, either for you personally or for people that you know. But if you don't really care about that, another reason that you might be interested in dating with cancer as a topic is given the things that we're talking about this weekend, the convergence of technology, especially in the health industry, and privacy, dating and cancer are suddenly all sort of collapsing in on themselves, right? So let's say you meet somebody nice on OkCupid. They Google you before your first date. They find a post you put up in a cancer support forum talking about your experiences, right? So suddenly cancer is not a private thing anymore. So these are topics that, as we're developing technology and looking at relationships, is a whole new area, right, that we haven't dealt with. But maybe most importantly, why you should care about dating with cancer is that everyone has cancer. You have cancer. Or really, I should say you have cancer, which may not make sense to you just yet, but we'll come back to it. So for now, suspend your disbelief, and until we get back to that, you have cancer, okay? I can see you. It's not TV. You have to respond back to me, okay? Okay. All right, great. So that's why I care about dating with cancer. That's why you now suddenly, newly care about dating with cancer. So before we jump into it, I think maybe the first question is dating with cancer a problem that actually needs solving? You may be surprised to learn I think the answer is yes. And here's why. If you spend time looking at cancer support forums, which I have done a lot of in the last 9 months, you'll read two different things about dating with cancer. The first is people talking about that it's impossible. So they'll say, who wants to be with me? I've had surgery, my body doesn't look the same, I've lost my hair, I've gained weight, I've lost weight, I might die, I can't have kids, I'm broken. No one wants to be with me. Obviously, for those people, dating with cancer is a problem that needs solving. And then you'll read success stories. But even the success stories have a certain tint to them that sort of makes my stomach turn. So the success stories sort of sound like this. I thought no one would ever love me again. And then, from out of the mist, came this person on a white horse. And they saw the deep, beautiful inner person in me and loved me in spite of the horrible deformities and tragedy that I've experienced. Right? And that's what the success story sounds like. So I don't know about you, but for me, if dating with cancer and being successful at it looks like I have to be monogamous, which I'm not, I have to be looking for true love, which I'm not, I have to be a really decent, good, virtuous person, and I have to find somebody who's like a sacrificial martyr who's gonna love me anyway, and like that's the only way I can win at this, then I wanna shoot myself in the face. That doesn't sound like very much fun. I want to have all the dates I want, all the sex I want with whoever I want, and not have to be a good person if I don't want to, right? Because the rest of the dating world doesn't depend on you being a good person, right? So that's the problem, right? And one of the reasons that I think it's such a big problem that needs addressing is that sex and orgasms and touch are really good for you. They're good for your mood, they're good for your immune system, and they've been shown to actually make you live longer. So if you're dealing with a chronic illness, it's something that's challenging your health, this is one of the best things you can do for yourself, right? So the people who need it the most are getting it the least. So that's the problem. So now the question is, how do we solve it? So how we want to sort of look at this is cancer, as it's normally conceived of, is this negative, right? It's in the like negative detracting column. I don't just want to take it out of the negative column. I actually want to put it in the positive column. I'm interested not in people dating me in spite of the fact that I have cancer. I'm interested in people dating me because of it. Or maybe not because I have cancer, because that's a fetish that I'm not even into. But maybe dating me because of who I am in the face of it. Seeing me deal with this challenge and finding that so inspiring that I may be more attractive than I would have been beforehand, right? I want cancer to not be something that cock-blocks me. I want cancer to be my wingman. Okay, so that sounds nice and good, right? How do we do that? So this is the takeaway message, and it's 3 words, so it's really easy. And this is the way to be successful at dating with cancer, which is, remember, really important to you since you have cancer, right? Okay, so this is how you do it. You have to rock your awkward, right? Rock your awkward. So what does that mean? What does that look like? So the biggest thing is that in order to rock your awkward, and in this case, we're talking about cancer, right? You have to include it in your life. You can't avoid it or deny it. One of the most insanely infuriating things that I've experienced in the last 9 months is a number of people talking to me about how to diminish the appearance of my scar. I don't know if you can see it, but I have a scar on my neck. I just had my thyroid removed. Starting with the first doctor I met with, who spent more time telling me how he was going to make the scar small than he did telling me how he was going to cure me of cancer. So I fired him. So I don't care about that. And last week, I got cornered by a Ukrainian grandmother in a kitchen at a party who was like, have they told you how to keep it from showing up? You have to stay out of the sun, you put sunscreen, you wear a scarf, and as if anybody saw what I'd been through, I couldn't be beautiful anymore, and they wouldn't want me, right? So that's avoiding your cancer and avoiding the awkward things in your life. In order to include it and rock it, okay, so this is the not safe for children part. So I have 2 stories, and I don't have time to tell both of them, so you have to pick one. This is our choose our own adventure. So an example of rocking my awkward with cancer in my dating life. So one is like a romantic, sweet story, and then one's like a raunchy 3XXX rated story. Okay, good. That's excellent. I assumed you would all be perverts, so I didn't really practice the first one. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that right now. I have an idea in mind, but if you had picked that one, it would have not gone very well. Okay, here we go. So a couple of weeks after I had surgery, I got the bandages off. And I was Skyping with one of my sweethearts, and I was showing my new scar and talking about the roller coaster that I'd been on over the last couple weeks, both emotionally and physically. Healing and surgery and cancer makes your body change really rapidly, sort of underneath you. So when the bandages first came off, it was so sensitive, almost erotic. The nerves are all awake, and I would touch it, and it's just really electric. And then one morning I woke up and it felt numb, which is appropriate for the healing process. That's how that goes. But it was just so disorienting. So I'm telling him about these experiences, and it's I think, my body is healing faster than me, and I don't know how to keep up, and just sort of grappling with that. And he knows that I'm a really sexual person. And so having things be sexual helps me sort of stay grounded and get back in my body and cope with the really scary, difficult things, right? So he starts telling me what he's going to do to me the next time he sees me. So he says, first I'm going to kiss you. Then I'm going to kiss that beautiful, sexy neck of yours. Kiss all along that scar. And then I'm going to put you on your knees. And I'm going to take that sexy mouth and wrap it around my cock. And I'm going to slide deep into you, down to the space where there used to be a tumor. At this point, my hand is between my legs, right? We're Skyping, and I'm this is the hottest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. I didn't know I was going to tell anybody about this experience at that point. So he says, and I'm going to fuck your face and stroke your scar as I do it, and feel it move up and down as you swallow me. And then I'm going to pull out, and I am going to come all over that scar and give you the sexiest, dirtiest pearl necklace you have ever seen in your entire life. So every time you see that scar, or feel it, or think of it, I want you to imagine me taking the head of my cock and smearing my cum all over it. At which point, I just started coming and crying at the same time. Like, the idea that my body and everything I'd been through, and death and pain and fear and my scar could be part of what made me attractive and beautiful was overwhelming, right? And was such a better counterpoint to the Ukrainian grandmother, like, you put sunscreen and you cover it up and you put that. So that's an example of how you rock your awkward, include it, right? And here's why you want to do that. When we think about people who really inspire us, and I think Amanda's a perfect example, what is so inspiring about them is that they really share that vulnerable, awkward part of themselves, right? Every time, I promise you, you've ever been inspired by somebody, it's because they shared something really sort of scary and intimate and difficult about their lives, and they really owned it. They really rocked it. So we are desperate for those experiences. And then we run around and we have our own things, our terrible secrets that we don't want anybody to know, and we hide them, and we covet them, and we don't tell anybody about what we've gone through. When the bittersweet irony is that if we share those things with people, it gives them permission to be a little bit broken, a little bit imperfect, a little bit awkward, right? So as a dating coach, I work with a lot of people who, and across the board, everybody thinks that they have something that makes them fundamentally unlovable or undesirable. And it may be that they're too short, or they're too tall, or they should be fatter, or they should be skinnier, or they should have more hair here and less hair here, and they should have had more partners or fewer partners, or they should have treated this person better or stood up for themselves. Whatever the thing is, everybody has something that for them is insurmountable, that for them is cancer, right? So you probably figured out by now that when I say you have cancer, what I mean is you have whatever is your thing, your very difficult, impossible, insurmountable, scary, terrifying thing that if anybody knew about you, right, they wouldn't really love you. And that thing, despite for you it being an obstacle, is actually your access to having the kind of connections that you really want. That's how you have cancer be your wingman, right? So here's the thing about dating with cancer. It's really hard. Having cancer is the hardest thing I have ever done in my whole life. And it would be easy to just take a break and not be bubbly and flirty and out there and have first dates and first kisses and deal with grappling with my own mortality at the same time. But when I'm trying to decide who I want to be and what I want to do in the face of these circumstances, I kind of imagine myself 100 years from now, reading my Wikipedia page somebody's written about me, right? And I scroll down to the section that's personal history, and there's a paragraph that says, at 29 years old, she was diagnosed with cancer. And nobody asked me about the first part of that paragraph. I did not get to vote on that. But I get to say what happens next. And either it reads, at 29, she was diagnosed with cancer, and then she became very afraid and closed off and didn't share herself with anybody. So who knows why we're even writing this Wikipedia page about her. Or it says at 29, she was diagnosed with cancer, and she used that as a platform to share with people and to give them an opportunity and an example for opening themselves up and sharing themselves with other people. And she became a champion, and she had some pretty hot sex too. And it's obvious to me which one I want to read 100 years from now. And I hope for you, with your cancer, with whatever you're dealing with, that it's obvious which Wikipedia page you want to read for yourself as well. Thank you.